You can't buy love, you can only feel it. Written and narrated by Tammeron while staying deep in the woods in Northern Ontario since the early onset of COVID lockdown. I believe the onset of the global lockdown was not a negative experience. In fact, it has shown me how more people are coming together. It's through the alchemy of love. And this digital holiday storybook evolved over a period of almost 3 years since the fall of 2019, after we had to put down our family dog named Maggie. 1 month later, I picked up a nasty virus, and that lasted over 3 months and turned into pneumonia. I suffered from heavy grief and loss, and this is when the idea of this book started rolling around in my head. At that time, I was temporarily staying in my sister Gail's house, and my mom lives there too. I was lucky enough to enjoy some awesome cooking, and I started asking for some family recipes that I wanted to gather from their kitchen. Even though this book did not wind up being our favorite family recipes, it gave me the opportunity to get my idea into motion. Of course, I still have the original recipes tucked away, but I did manage to add Gail's best shortbread family recipe to share with all of you. I've been living away from my family for almost 3 years, and it has been extremely difficult to be so far away and not be able to just pop by for a visit or spend time together. During the intense lockdown, my intuition was telling me to go back to school and become a certified astrologer. I am so glad I did. After receiving my certification, I enrolled in an online business school. Once I started studying my astrological birth chart, I uncovered some secret messages that were guiding me to share my passion for recipes. And since I was away from most of my family and friends, I only had a few people nearby that I could be around while everyone still tried to connect during challenging times. My astrology chart revealed my destiny was to spend more time in my kitchen, and somehow I felt alive. It was as if I was being guided, even though it didn't make sense to others. I committed myself to take action and trust what I had uncovered. I volunteered at a local nonprofit organization every week during the summer of 2021. And that is when I realized I shared a common passion with the coordinator, Judy, that we both wanted to start a recipe book. Then in the fall, I landed a part time job at a local deli where I met some fabulous women. As I shared my home cooking, desserts, and freshly brewed herbal teas, last Christmas of 2021, one of my coworkers named Hiroko predicted that by this Christmas of 2022, I would have my recipe book in the store. I had the vision to start an online community school where I could empower more women to use the knowledge of astrology to build their entrepreneurial businesses. Living on my own meant too much extra food, so I began sharing with coworkers, neighbors, and where I volunteered. I continued to work on my plan behind the scenes part time, and I remained focused on my dreams. But that came to a roaring halt during the summer of 2022 when I picked up a nasty virus and pneumonia one more time, and I was unable to work for over a month. Once I got better, I was ready to go back to work, and the next morning, my vehicle would not start. I had cashed in all of my savings and I was just getting by, so I had to rely on family to help me through some very rough financial times. I almost sold my beautiful property up in Northern Ontario as a means to get by. A huge thank you to my family, my mom, Gracia, my sister, Gail, my brother, Jay, my son, Bryden, and my son, Alex. It is very difficult to ask anyone for money. I was decluttering, donating many items, selling excess items that I no longer needed, and privately showing the property. Near the end, I was moving some last minute boxes. I received another huge intuitive download, and I felt compelled to stay. Again, I gained the support of my family, my three very close friends, neighbors, and people I barely know to help me bring me food, fresh drinking water supplies, and whatever else I needed to get by in this little township. A shout out to Ida, Suzanne, Charmel, Liz, Randy, Shannon, Rob, Lori, Dave, and many other local people who have carved out time in their own busy lives to help me get around. I also had some powerful emotional support from an incredible group of women who I have never met in person. But in January of 2022, we have been meeting every 2 weeks to hold each other up through some very raw personal and business matters. We have each had our rough moments to just literally hold space for each other, and we are still going stronger than ever. With no money in the bank and having no clue as to how my life would move forward, they have been like my own private magic mirror filled with loyal fairies that I could lean on every single month. I knew someone would always be on the other end of the call with me to offer honest reflection and feedback. We are all so committed to showing up for each other to fulfill our dreams and desires. What a great group of powerful women that I feel so honored to be involved with as part of a team effort. The value is absolutely priceless. A great big thank you to my soul sisters, Sonia, Maggie, Laurel, and Jody. Together, we are an authentic five-pointed star. We all intuitively know that someday soon we are actually going to meet in person for a real big team huddle together. I hope we are all sitting around a roaring campfire under the stars on an actual full moon evening. Who wouldn't want that? Then it was the September long weekend, which meant it was the back to school season. The very next day, I opened a notification inside a business networking community that I was introduced to through a woman named Jean Marie, who I barely knew. She had invited me in months earlier, but I was not very involved with it since I became sick. They were now hosting a free mini challenge to learn how to use Facebook communities effectively as part of a business model. It was as if my prayers were being answered once again. And so I dove right in to learn because I realized this was how I was going to launch my online women's school community. It was inside that networking community that I met some other fabulous people, and I was introduced to a new business coach named Jonathan. I shared my vision of my business, and I knew his services would get me to where I wanted to go. However, I explained that I did not have the money at that time to pay for his services, and he willingly agreed to allow me to join his coaching program for authors and coaches to help me begin to move forward. His kindness and generosity of his time has been the biggest gift in my business to allow this holiday storybook to come to fruition. As I studied his teachings, I shared with Judy that I was learning about publishing and book writing, and perhaps we could create a digital recipe book to raise funds for her nonprofit organization. And I volunteered to get it started. But as time became an issue, and I did not know much about the online world and media marketing, I realized I had taken on too much and I would not be able to meet a deadline for her holiday market. So, as a group, we decided to wait until the new year in 2023. However, I still had this concept in my head and I did not know how it was going to turn out. But once I decided to make it my book, I knew I could still contribute to her nonprofit by donating 10% of the profits. This was late November. And somehow this whole concept took on a new life of its own. And now it is finally here as a compilation of everyone's energy. I really cannot take all of the credit. In closing, I want to share a few thoughts. To remind everyone that if it wasn't for studying my astrological birth chart, I wouldn't have found those clues. To allow myself permission to spend more time doing what I love the most. Hanging out in my kitchen and sharing my passion for food and recipes has raised my vibe. This became my mantra for 2022. I did not have the financial means to bring my passion to life, and somehow I manifested the kindest and most generous people out of thin air who made this holiday storybook come to life just in time for the holiday season. I hope it brings more joy and happiness into your life too, because it has certainly changed my life on so many levels. I just kept going. And I honestly believe it is because of the power of people who are coming together during the chaos and crazy times that we are all being pulled together from only one source. This is a miracle of love and a true blessing in disguise. My mantra for 2023 is to spend more time with your family, friends, and loved ones. Be more open and willing to get involved in your community neighborhood to help each other out a little more. Acts of kindness might just be the secret answer that we are all genuinely looking for. Welcome to the age of Aquarius. Be the light. As a mom myself, I cannot even begin to know how to thank my oldest son, Bryden, for his ongoing love and support to help me bring this concept together. I have had to learn so much about social media, digital marketing, and writing. And every single time I had to call him for help, he did not waver or told me no. He has gone out of his way to make sure I had this ready just in time for the holiday season. Plus, he came up with the idea for the 12 themes of the holidays, and that is when a storybook about scents sparked and came to life. I could not cut my love in half after I gave birth to my second son, Alex, and he is the perfect example of how love never gets divided. As a mom, I was only able to experience even more love in my heart after he was born because it multiplied. I have had to lean on him for emotional support, and he is my big cheerleader who always reminds me of my wins. His ongoing texts and messages give me the strength to keep going no matter what. I just feel so lucky to be a mom. In memory of my late father, I feel your love every single day. Dad, thank you for bringing me here to this spectacular and beautiful area of Northern Ontario when I was just a little girl and I fell in love with the land. A tidbit here. Did you know the story about the three wise men? Read my post from December 3rd, 2022 on my personal Facebook page. It is the actual proof of the gift of love, joy, and happiness is the end result of this idea that was rolling around in my head. Sometimes I wonder who's been guiding me on this spiritual journey all along. This book launched for sale on exactly 6 months to the date that I wrote down my own new moon prayer. And even if you are a non-believer, here is the proof that this woo-woo magic stuff works. Look at what I wrote down on June 28th, 2022, 6 months prior, during that new moon energy. And now this little digital storybook is on sale for just $10. It launched on December 28th, 2022.